So today we're going to be going over the top 5 things you're going to want to have on your Google Ads landing page. Now, to be very clear, this is not a step-by-step guide. There are far too many different landing page builders to actually do any kind of a step-by-step guide on building landing pages, because we would be here for hours upon hours going over what to click and where to place things and all that kind of stuff. So I figured it would be a lot better to just cover the higher level stuff of what you want to have on your page and not specifically how to build a page. And there's a ton of different stuff that I can include on this list, but I wanted to at least cover the things that should be the highest leverage stuff that you can do for your landing pages. And one thing that's really, really important with this process is don't overcomplicate things. You don't have to make things complicated. There isn't some kind of secret hack or special content or copy or something like that that is going to magically revolutionize your landing page. For the most part, landing pages can really kind of be distilled down to a couple of things primarily. Like there's a whole long list of stuff, but if you really just kind of focus on number 1, making sure that page is actually relevant to what somebody is searching for. And then number 2, designing it in a way that is easy to interact with. Because on my end, I have pages that convert anywhere from 20 to 35%, and they're very simple, very basic copy, and really basic offers like call for a free quote. You know, call for a quote, get a free quote today, call for pricing, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be super, galaxy brained copy, because at the end of the day, I kind of have it highlighted here, people are just looking for a solution. So if somebody goes to Google and they search for tree service near me, they're just looking for a tree service that looks reputable that they can contact and get a quote from. You don't need to figure out the perfect copy, the perfect layout, the perfect everything. It just needs to be a page where people can see what you do, see that you offer what they need, and just make it really easy for them to contact you for a quote. So you can definitely go down that rabbit hole of writing the perfect copy, creating the perfect offer, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you just do the basics, you're going to be like 80% of the way there. And one last thing before we get into the actual like top 5 list is if you build a page and it's not converting, test it. Make sure that you don't just kind of throw your hands up and say, landing pages are bad, nothing works, what the hell. I can give you some guidelines. I can kind of show you some things that have worked for me, give you some bullet points, but if you build something and launch it, it still might not convert as well as you would want. So as long as there aren't other things in your campaign that aren't working, the next best step is to start making adjustments to your page to try to boost up that conversion rate. All right, so with all that said, let's actually jump into the things that you should have on your landing page. So probably the most important part of any landing page is we want to make sure the header section of the page is well built, well put together, and it is relevant to what somebody searched for, because that's the first thing somebody's going to see when they hit their landing page. So let's jump over to an example and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we are on a little demo landing page here. And what we're talking about when I talk about the header section of a page is I'm not specifically talking about, the stuff up here with the phone number and stuff like that, which is very important. I'm talking more about this initial block of content, the call to action, really anything that is typically referred to as above the fold. And above the fold usually means it's everything that you're going to see on the page kind of before you start scrolling down. And this is probably the most important part of any landing page, because this is going to be really somebody's first impression of the page, of your business, whatever it might be. And there's a handful of things we got to remember with this section of a page. Number 1, we want to keep it simple. We don't want to hit people with this massive block of text. Number 2, we want to make sure, and this is relevant not only to the heading of the page, but also all of the content on the page. Everything up here needs to be relevant to what somebody searched, because you got to remember, if somebody's going to Google, and let's say we'll use the tree service example again, and somebody types in tree services near me, tree service company near me, the headline's got to say something even as simple as just like, tree service company, whatever location, let's say Dallas's #1 rated tree service company, something like that. It needs to very explicitly say, we are a tree service company, we can solve your problem. So it needs to be relevant to what somebody searched for. And usually some kind of typical examples of what you can do is something like this, where it's headline, subheadlines kind of a thing. You can do a headline with maybe a little blurb of text underneath there. Again, you don't want to hit people with this massive wall of text. Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of people are usually on mobile devices, and a lot of people nowadays don't want to read. So what I've found to work pretty well is kind of bigger calls to action, bigger text, Sometimes switching this over to mobile really quick, having these call to action buttons bigger, just having a big phone call button right there, that seems to work pretty well as well. At the end of the day, what really matters is just having that simple, really relevant. And then the third thing you want to have here is a call to action. So if somebody's seeing those few things at the head of the page, that is, I don't want to say 80% of the battle, but that what they're seeing when they hit the page, that is like their first impression, like I said. So you want to make sure all of that stuff is put together well, it's relevant, it's simple, there's a call to action, and you can test it, change it, etc. But like I said, you don't need to go super overboard with it. Keep it simple. And then if we, again, switch back to the mobile version, you got to keep these things in mind as you're kind of building out the mobile version too, because you're going to see somebody hits the page, they're going to see your headline, they're going to see the benefits, then they're going to get a call to action right away. And one other thing to keep in mind here is you're going to have your call to action here at the top. I mean, you can do it however you want, but this is what I always do on my pages. I'll have a phone number at the top, and then I will actually have that as a sticky call to action, but we'll get to that later on in the video. Header section, very important. It's the first thing we want to cover. And if you focus a majority of your effort on here and kind of tweaking this and optimizing this section, you're probably gonna get the biggest leverage out of that in terms of anything you might test or optimize on a page. All right, so the next thing is, I guess, a little bit obvious, but it's sometimes not embraced enough as I think it should be. But your pages need to be mobile optimized. So obviously what that means is they need to kind of render and display properly on a mobile device, but that also means they need to load quickly as well. They need to load quickly on a phone because people are not going to sit around and wait for your landing page to load. So it's got to display properly. It's got to be easy to interact with on a mobile device. And then it also has to load fast. So let's hop over to that example and I'll just kind of show you what that looks like. So with mobile optimization, this one is pretty straightforward, but I still wanted to walk through it really quick. Like I said, mobile optimization is not just about when you resize the site like this, it works on mobile devices. It's also about how quickly this loads. So if this were to load way too slowly on a mobile phone, people would just go back to Google and move on to the next business. So couple things with that is you want to make sure these images are not like full size images. You usually have to compress these images, get them down to a smaller file size so they load quicker. And you can do that with all the images on the page. There's a ton of resources out there that you can kind of look up for that. So you want to make sure that's loading properly. And then kind of going back to the layout of the site. Again, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but it needs to be easy to interact with. So you can see it's kind of like hand holding people in a way. So if somebody hits this, there's a very simple option for them to just click the button up top to call now, get my free quote highlighted here on the form. And then as you go through the page, do you want to get a free quote? Schedule now, hit the button. It's just, again, it's not super complicated, but a lot of times I see either websites or landing pages where they just don't make it easy and just like, they think they're making it easy to get in contact with you, but at the end of the day, like somebody still has to maybe go to the contact page or there's like sort of just a phone icon in the top right. It should really just be like, tap this button. Like on some landing pages, I've literally just put a big call button right here up in the header section and just made it kind of obnoxiously big. And that has helped some conversion rate issues on some pages. So you want to make it super easy to use. It's got to display properly. Things shouldn't be overlapping, load quickly, all that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much it for the mobile optimization side of landing pages. Another thing that's really, really important for your landing page, again, kind of going back to the design elements here, you want to have clear and easy to use calls to action. So this is not only the, phone call buttons and stuff like that, but the forms as well. Everything needs to be very easy to use and very easy to interact with. And the more friction that you have on that page and the harder you make it for somebody to actually get in contact with you or call you or request a quote or whatever it might be, or they gotta, scroll around and look for the phone number and all that, the less conversions you're gonna get. You wanna make it so unbelievably brain dead easy to just, click the phone number and call. Like, hey, if you want to call, click the number. If you wanna submit a form, submit the form. So this is another point that is super, super important, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. And this kind of goes off of the mobile optimization a little bit as well. And some of the things I talked about before is if you make it really difficult for somebody to get in contact with you, whether, not just looking at the, the calls to action with the phone numbers and stuff like that and the click to call, but if the quote form is like hidden somewhere, or I've seen instances where the quote form is like 10 plus questions, and like you will get higher quality leads if you have a bunch of input fields on your form, but a lot of people don't really want to fill that out. Like they'd rather just kind of fill it out really quick, reach out, business reaches out to them, and then you have a conversation from there. So with the calls to action and all that kind of stuff, it's not just about whether you have offers or anything like that, or things like this where there's some kind of like scarcity where it's like, hey, our schedule fills up fast, book your appointment today. It's really just about making it super, super easy, putting it right in their face, and really hand holding them through the process. And this is kind of one of the issues with if you send people to the homepage of a website. A lot of times people have to look for a lot of this stuff, whether it's the information they're looking for, the calls to action, the forms to fill out, all that kind of stuff. And if there's any friction in that process, if there's anything that gets in the way of just getting in contact with you, that's going to drop your conversion rates. It's going to make it harder for people to actually, become a lead at the end of the day. And obviously that's going to impact your business. So the calls to action and the kind of interactability there, again, very straightforward, but I feel like the best way to kind of visualize this is just kind of show you, make it very simple, give them a button, give them an easy form to fill out. Don't make it too easy, because obviously if it's just name and email, you're going to get really garbage quality leads, but you just want to make sure it's easy to use, and those calls to action also just kind of make sense for the person. Another thing that is extremely, extremely important on any landing page, and I would say whether it's a landing page or a website or whatever, you want to make sure that you have reviews on that page. At a bare minimum, have those reviews, and also trust indicators. So if you are in an industry where there's a lot of certifications, there's a lot of, associations and all this kind of stuff. Every industry is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a bunch of different associations. You can even put a BBB logo on there, Better Business Bureau, if you are a registered business with that. But there's, like I said, every industry is going to have a bunch of different stuff, whether it's certifications, awards from certain things. Having that kind of stuff on the page can help build a little bit more trust with that potential customer. And the whole purpose of this step, like I just said, is to build trust. Those reviews help to build trust. Those badges and certifications and stuff, those help to build trust. And the more of that you have on the page, obviously don't overdo it, but the more of that you have on the page, it will help people make their decision. And a lot of the times when people don't know if they should make a decision, they're going to default to those reviews. So let's jump over to the landing page and I'll show you that right now. Now, moving on to reviews, trust indicators, all that kind of stuff. On this page specifically, I only have reviews, and these are all kind of blocked off because these are actual people's reviews. I just didn't want to be, I don't want to say it's doxing, but I didn't want to be just like putting people's stuff out on the internet. But these are actual reviews. And usually what I do on a lot of campaigns is I will literally just take screenshots of the Google reviews for a client. If they don't have Google reviews, you can do Yelp reviews, you can do whatever reviews you have. I will just take the actual screenshot of the review and then put it on the page itself. And I did not come up with this, but I was always kind of told if you just take screenshots of reviews, it's a lot harder to fake that. Like you can take some kind of like templated review section, a lot of landing page builders or website builders or whatever, they have review sections with like a templated review block, and you put in the name and you copy and paste in the text and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, like that can be faked. You could literally just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you write me some reviews for my company? And they'll just come up with some text and you copy it and paste it. But if you just actually screenshot that review and put it on the page, you can't actually fake that. So whether it's reviews or testimonials or whatever, you want to have that on the page, because this is something that when people are making up their mind about whether they want to work with you or not, they will usually default to what other people are saying. And I'm sure you do it with a lot of other things. I do it with a lot of things. Even if it's like buying a product off Amazon, I'm going to look at the reviews first. I'm going to see what other people are saying, see if it worked for them. And that is super important. If you do not have this on your page, this is, outside of the header section, this is probably one of the easiest things you can do to boost up the conversion rate on your page, is have reviews. And you can go down the rabbit hole with this of showing case studies and reviews and before and after pictures and all this sort of stuff. But you want to make sure you have this on the page. And like I mentioned before, you can put little trust indicator badges, like if you are a contractor and you are certified in a certain thing, and maybe there's different organizations and stuff like that. You can literally take the logo, like the certification logo, and maybe you put it up here at the top, put a few logos for your different certifications, and putting those on the page as well can help to boost up that credibility, boost up the trust. And it's really all about just showing that you are a legit business. People trust you, people have done business with you in the past, and people have good things to say about you. If you put those things on the page, they will help your conversion rates. And it's one of those things, like I said, I would not skip that. I would absolutely have it on every page, have it on your website, have it on your, your marketing materials, all that sort of stuff. It's super important. And now let's move on to the final thing. And then one final thing that I have found to work really, really well on landing pages is personalized pictures and content. So this doesn't mean personalizing it for the actual potential customer. It means kind of like, including some personality into it. One thing that I really like is if business owners are comfortable with it, I would really prefer to have either, if it's maybe a selfie image or a picture of them and their crew, like kind of showing off the people that actually work at the business or that own the business, because that gives it a little bit of a personal touch to the content on the landing page. Because obviously you got to have content on the landing page, but if you have that personalized touch where it's like, hey, the about section is more of a message from the owner kind of a thing, and the pictures are pictures of the team and the owner and the trucks and all that kind of stuff, that is super, super important and will help boost up your conversion rate. So unfortunately with this page, I don't have that actual personalized content on here because like I said, it's just a demo page. But usually what I like to do is, number one, before we even talk about the personalized content, don't use stock imagery. Like every image that you use, all the content you should use should be personalized to your business. Don't use stock images. Don't use generic looking stuff. It should be pictures of, you doing whatever it is, your crew doing whatever it is, pictures of the truck, make it look legit. If it's stock images, people are going to look at that and just say, this is probably a scam business or something like that, and just not convert. You want to look like an actual legit local business. And what I've found that works even better than that is, let's say you have in your about section, you can have literally like yourself as the owner, selfie image with maybe like the crew working, or just you and your team in front of the trucks. Stuff like that works really well, because then you can actually show people like, hey, even like another level of, we're a legit local business. We have all these people that work for us. We have, multiple crews, all that kind of stuff. And you can have, instead of just like a generic about us section where it's just like, we've been in business for this and that, blah, 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 like all that sort of stuff that is just sort of the basic about section stuff. You can have a personalized message from the owner of the business, maybe going over whatever guarantees you have, offers you have, all that sort of stuff. And putting that stuff onto a landing page is so much better, because at the end of the day, businesses are just made up of humans, and humans just want to buy stuff from other humans. And if you seem more likable, more trustworthy than another business in town, people are most likely going to go with you, as opposed to somebody that just sort of puts their brand out there and that's it. And they appear very like corporate in a way, whereas people just kind of would like to just buy stuff from friendly people and have friendly people do the stuff that they want them to do. That is super important. The personalized stuff helps a ton, and it's something that I highly, highly recommend. And like I said, do not do this. Don't do stock images. This is obviously just a demo page, but if you personalize some of that content, you will definitely see a boost on your landing pages. All right, so that is it for this video. That was kind of the top 5 things that you want to have in your Google Ads landing page. Like I said, this video wasn't intended to be some long, exhaustive list of everything. Just kind of 5 things that you want to have on your page that should give you the highest leverage when it comes to building your page. And if you want to add things onto that, I'm sure there's a ton of other videos, ton of other resources out there that can give you every single little thing that you want to have on your page. But if you focus on those things, you stick to the basics, make sure your page is designed in a way that's easy to interact with, have reviews on there, all that kind of good stuff, it's going to most likely convert decently. And then obviously if it's not converting as well as you want, test it, improve on it, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully you got some value out of this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate liking the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And if you are a business owner and you are looking for somebody to actually build a campaign, optimize it, kind of handle everything for you so you don't have to, There's a link in the description below. You can fill that out for a free consultation. And outside of that, I hope you got some value out of this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.